Hello, I'm Mohsen Jamal and you watch Afghan News. Hundreds of Afghans on Wednesday protested at the assassination of former President Burhanuddin Rabbani, who was killed while negotiating with Taliban emissaries in his role of head of the Peace Council set up by President Hamid Karzai. Under heightened security, several hundred mourners marched to Rabbani's home in Kabul, carrying pictures of the dead Tajik leader and wearing black headbands. Several government officials arrived to pay their respects. President Hamid Karzai rushed home from the United Nations and chaired an emergency cabinet meeting to discuss giving Rabbani an official funeral, which is expected to take place on Thursday or Friday. The High Peace Council paid tribute to its late chairman, describing him as a great leader of jihad. The Taliban has claimed responsibility for the murder of former Afghan President Burhanuddin Rabbani, saying the group had won his trust before carrying out the assassination. Rabbani, who headed a council to negotiate a peaceful settlement with the Taliban, was killed by a suicide bomber in Kabul on Tuesday. Zabihullah Mujahid, a Taliban spokesman, on Wednesday claimed responsibility for the overnight attack, saying the killer had gone to Rabbani's home for talks. The Kabul police chief's office in a statement said that the explosives had been hidden in the suicide bomber's turban. Mujahid said the Taliban central leadership had appointed two articulate and well-trained fighters, Muhammad Masoom and Wahid Yar, to build contacts with Rabbani. He also said that Yar, a former minister when the Taliban was in power in Kabul, had visited Rabbani's home many times, adding that the group had made similar plans for assassinating more such people in the near future. World leaders condemned the Tuesday assassination of Afghan peace broker and ex-president Burhanuddin Rabbani, saying the Taliban would not prevail despite a series of devastating high-profile attacks. U.S. President Barack Obama offered condolences for Rabbani's tragic loss as he met Afghan President Hamid Karzai in New York and described it as a senseless act of violence. Karzai insisted the peace process would not be derailed by the death. U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, who was in New York for meetings in the build-up to the United Nations General Assembly, condemned Rabbani's killing in the strongest terms. The UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon also condemned the killing and underscored the UN's commitment to supporting Afghanistan and its people attaining peace and stability and to working in close cooperation with them. NATO Chief Anders Fogh Rasmussen on Tuesday condemned the attack and vowed that the alliance would not leave before completing its mission. Asif Ali Zardari, Pakistan's president, and Yusuf Raza Gailani, the prime minister, also condemned the attack. A statement from French President Nicolas Sarkozy's office said Rabbani's killing was a terrorist act and of unbearable cowardice, adding that France would fight the scourge of terrorism relentlessly in Afghanistan. British Foreign Minister William Hague said Rabbani had worked tirelessly for peace and a secure future for Afghanistan, while British Prime Minister David Cameron said in a statement he was absolutely appalled by the assassination of Rabbani. Admiral Mike Mullen, chairman of the U.S. Joint Chiefs of Staff, said the attack signaled that the Taliban was changing tactics by moving off the battlefield to go after high-profile targets elsewhere. Defense Secretary Leon Panetta said the assassination tactic was a concern and U.S. commanders were working with Afghan forces to try to thwart the Taliban. The assassination of Burhanuddin Rabbani, chairman of Afghanistan's High Peace Council, dealt a blow to the government's negotiations with the Taliban. Rabbani, a former Afghan national leader, was killed and his deputy wounded as they met two men who said they had come from Quetta, Pakistan, with a peace message from the Taliban, said council member Habibullah Fauzi. Two U.S. intelligence officials said the Islamic militant Haqqani group was the leading suspect behind the attack. Another U.S. official cautioned that so far there is no hard evidence linking the Haqqani group and that others allied with the Taliban might be responsible. The two intelligence officials who spoke on condition of anonymity said on Tuesday that the attack on Rabbani appears to fit a pattern. At least 11 police officers were killed in a terrorist attack in the central province of Ghazni on Tuesday night. A local police chief said the police officers were participating in an operation against a Taliban militant attack. Dilawar Zahid, the provincial police chief, said militants first opened fire and triggered an improvised explosive device as the policemen entered a building. Taliban militants have not yet commented on the issue. Almost 3 million people are going hungry in Afghanistan because of a drought that has gripped the country's north and west since last year, British aid agency Oxfam said on Tuesday. With Afghanistan's harsh winter looming, Oxfam urged donors to act fast to avoid delays in delivering food and water to the most vulnerable before snow cuts them off. Asunta Charles, head of Oxfam in Afghanistan, said in a statement that governments need to wake up to the gravity of this crisis and ensure they are ready to respond before the situation gets worse. Nearly 3/4 of people living in the affected areas say they will run out of food in less than 2 months, Oxfam said. Poor rains last autumn, followed by limited snowfall in the winter and lack of rainfall again in the spring, have led to severe food shortages in 14 of Afghanistan's 34 provinces in the north, northeast and west, Oxfam said. Earlier this year, U.S. officials warned the country could face a serious drought in 2011 that would cause millions of poor to go hungry and fuel instability in a country already torn apart by decades of conflict. Pakistani police said gunmen opened fire on a bus in Pakistan's southwestern province of Balochistan in a suspected sectarian attack on Tuesday, killing at least 26 Shiite Muslim pilgrims traveling to Iran. 4 assailants attacked the bus carrying more than 50 pilgrims near Mastung town, around 50 kilometers from the provincial capital of Quetta. A police official in Mastung said the gunmen opened fire on the bus from all 4 sides before getting into the bus and firing again. 3 more people were killed when gunmen opened fire on an ambulance near Quetta as it headed to the attack site in Mastung. Sunni Muslim militants loyal to Al-Qaeda and the Taliban have carried out high-profile attacks on members of Pakistan's Shiite minority in the past. A new Libyan government will be announced within 7 to 10 days, the transitional leadership's interim prime minister has said in New York. Mahmoud Jibril told reporters on Tuesday that the ministers could be divided between the east and west of the country. He was speaking at a press conference hosted by G8 foreign ministers after the new Libyan leaders were welcomed to the United Nations, ensuring their newfound status after ousting long-time ruler Muammar Gaddafi. Meanwhile, Libya has been added to the list of Arab countries that have seen political revolutions or deep change that will benefit from a G8 arrangement set up by France, which holds the G8 presidency this year. The so-called duo-well partnership will inject about $80 billion in international expertise into the new democracies, though as a relatively wealthy country, Libya will not be getting the financial aid. And that an Arab parliamentary body has called for the suspension of the membership of Syria and Yemen in the Arab League in a bid to put pressure on the 2 countries to hit popular demands for reforms. The call was put out on Tuesday following a committee meeting of the Arab Parliament, a body to which members of the Arab League sent representatives. The head of the committee, which met at the Arab League's headquarters in Cairo, said that mass slaughter was taking place in Syria and Yemen and called on the League to deal with the countries. Meanwhile, Arab League Secretary General Nabil Al-Arabi has said that a decision to suspend Syria's membership of the League has to be taken by the Arab states, not by the League's administration. Elsewhere, U.S. President Barack Obama and Turkish Prime Minister Recep Tayyip Erdogan on Tuesday discussed the need to increase pressure on Assad. And that's all for now. Thanks for staying with us.